Hello and welcome to Nigeria Going Beyond Oil. I am Wole Famurewa. Our program reviews activities designed to move Africa's top oil producer away from a focus on oil as a primary revenue source. Nigeria's federal and state governments are taking tax revenues more seriously, and technology is a major enabler of progress. On today's program, we report how technology is helping the federal and state governments expand the tax net and improve revenue collection.
Internal revenue serves as a platform for growing our capital projects.
This is a gathering of very influential people. It's the quarterly meeting of the heads of tax revenue boards of Nigeria's federal government and the 36 state governments. Following a sharp decline in oil revenues in 2015, the revenue boards have become more important to the governments they represent. Collecting taxes is back on top of the economic agenda. These meetings have become platforms for the sharing of ideas and the planning of collaborative efforts to raise tax revenues across the country. And over the last year, technology has become a major talking point at these meetings because ICT is changing the way the governments register taxpayers and collect taxes.
One thing about taxation that is very key is transparency. Any taxpayer would want to know and also be able to confirm that all their payments are going to the right place. Second, taxpayers need history. They need to be able to, at the touch of a button, if I could put it that way, be able to print out the list of all their payments. People pay tax in Nigeria right now because they need the tax certificate. They want a government contract, so they pay tax. They want patronage here or there, they pay tax. A very low percentage pay tax because it's the right thing to do. And as we move forward, we have started the process of enforcement. We started the process of getting more people into the tax net. And the only way you can keep track of million taxpayers is with technology. And the only way you can show them that your agency is transparent is through technology. And the only way you can serve them or provide them excellent service is technology.
If you look at our society today, IT is the driving force in any kind of business line. And if you want to be forward-thinking and you want to do business and IT is not involved, then you're in sort of the Stone Age. So tying that into the way we do business, I mean, with FIRS, we've been dealing with a lot of compliance. And I think what we always try to drive towards is voluntary compliance from our taxpayers. And if we're looking into that, what could help us do that without being too forceful or not compassionate? And I think IT was the best solution to put into it. So now we're taking IT as a business driver, not a cost center. We introduced technology into every area of our process, from registration to filing, assessment, payments, acknowledgement of the payment, and thereon.
Technology is bringing a new level of convenience to the registration and payment process.
Before, ordinarily as a taxpayer, you'd have to go to a tax office where you were registered or where it's aligned to you. The first initiative we drove away from that was that any taxpayer can move their tax office to the closest proximity to them. That is showing convenience. So when there's convenience, then it reduces the excuses of not paying your taxes. When we did that as well, we also introduced it being online, and online registration was introduced. Now you can do that, your registration online at the convenience of your home or your office. That aids us in that regard. After that, we also went for the filing. You can do e-filing now with our ITAS solution.
In order to reduce the burden of tax compliance, the Federal Inland Revenue Service has put in place the e-tax pay, electronic tax payment platforms, which enables taxpayers to pay their taxes at the comforts of their offices or homes without having to go to any bank. Through the internet banking platform or through they can also use card to pay their taxes. So This has reduced the burden of tax compliance.
With a tax to GDP ratio of 8% compared to more than 25% in South Africa and 17% in nearby Ghana, Nigeria has a long way to go in addressing poor tax collection across its diversified economy. But initiatives driven by the FIRS to use technology to register and track Nigerian citizens and businesses could go a long way in changing the culture forever.
Our ITAS solution, which is our Integrated Tax Administration solution, what it does is, when fully operational, it will start and conclude the entire tax process for our citizens. And then it's going to obviously come with a drive of sensitization to the nation that this is the way we're doing tax, this is the process, this is how convenient it is in order to engage. So that is on a system level, or should I say on a front-end level, engaging with the taxpayer on how the process works, end to end. Also on the back end, when we start driving these initiatives of collaboration with our sister agencies, the taxpayer would start to realize that, you know what, in order for me to get a driver's license, I need a tax clearance as an adult. In order for me to get a passport, I need a tax clearance as an adult, which means my tax position must be certified and cleared.
Tax registration, filing, and payments through electronic channels are important first steps, but ultimately, the FIRS is working on making it possible for taxpayers to receive their tax clearance certificates electronically by the second quarter of this year. These initiatives are adding a new level of efficiency to the tax management process.
But I think with this drive, what it does is it's allowing FIRS to be seen as, compassionate towards our taxpayers and making it easier, and also helping us on our mandate of improving and increasing our revenue collection.
Somebody wants a tax clearance certificate to bid for a contract, and he has 2 or 3 days for that time to lapse. And he goes to the revenue agency to get a tax clearance certificate, and you start looking through manual records. Before you even find his records and do what you have to do on it, most likely time is over. But with technology at the touch of a button, taxpayers will be able to apply for the tax clearance certificate. They'll be able to receive that certificate by email. They'll be able to confirm payments once they're being made.
Value-added tax charged on most goods and services sold across the country made up a quarter of taxes collected by the FIRS last year. But that figure should be a lot higher. Weak monitoring of collection by the tax authorities over decades has meant that many businesses do not pay what is due to the government. But the FIRS is now using technology to change the game.
The VAT automation has already been done in the aviation sector, but we are also targeting other sectors such as telecoms, power, banking, and all the other aspects of the economy to effectively collect VAT. In the case of the aviation, VAT automation in the aviation sector, the methodology is such that when an aircraft flies, from the manifest data, the VAT is automatically calculated without human intervention and remitted to the relevant account at CBN, the FRS VAT pool account at CBN. Currently, we have 3 airlines that have subscribed to it: the Aero Contractor, we have Dana, and we have the Medview. But it's a continuous process. Eventually, all the airlines will be enrolled on this platform.
The FIRS estimates that with the right support from the government, Nigeria could realize as much as 2 trillion naira each year from VAT if the current automation program is implemented in various sectors of the economy. That's more than 2 times the figure collected in 2016 and almost 30% of the proposed 2017 federal budget. Such estimates draw attention to the potential for Nigeria's federal and state governments to raise revenues by taking tax collection a lot more seriously.
There needs to be the political will, because we know that there will be tremendous resistance. It brings about transparency. So a lot of under-declaration will now be addressed, because a lot of taxpayers would not like to fully declare how much they are withheld. So this platform will give us greater transparency, and we will be able to generate more revenue in terms of VAT.
Over time, the drive to increase VAT should cut across all sectors. One sector that could potentially rake in significant revenues is Nigeria's power sector.
There is a Power Collect platform that has been put in place with the stakeholders in the power sector. Nigeria Electricity Supply Industry, also known as NESI, N-E-S-I, which is being coordinated by Transmission Company of Nigeria, as well as the NERC and the bulk electricity trader, NBET. So from this platform, data is already flowing on this platform that shows how much electricity is generated from the generating companies, GENCOs, known as GENCOs, how much electricity is transmitted, and how much electricity is distributed to the various DISCOs, as we call them, distribution companies, and how much losses occurred along the way. So it is an issue of greater transparency and data. So but what the Federal Inland Revenue Service wants to do is to leverage on those platforms to be able to account for how much taxes, that's the VAT, value-added tax, that each of the DISCOs are supposed to remit, and also all the players along the line.
It's time for a short break. When we come back, we continue our look at how technology is changing the game for Nigeria's tax authorities, and also look at how the various agencies and private sector players are collaborating to make the tax system work better. The sharp drop in the oil price last year reflects the uncertainty of petrodollars as a primary revenue source for governments. This has inspired a fresh drive across Nigeria for state governments to improve their tax administration systems. Several state governments are already recording significant progress in the drive to raise tax revenues.
From 2015, when I entered, the total IGR in the state was about 6.9 billion. That was as of December 2015. But in 2016, we moved the IGR to about 9.1 billion.
We were able to, increase the revenue by about 6 billion naira, from 11 billion to 17 billion at the end of the year 2016.
We were able to move Edo State in terms of revenue from about 280 million in a month to over 2.5 billion monthly.
Our revenue rose to 2.5 billion, 3 billion, from 1 billion to 1.2, 1.3.
The use of technology is not only emphasized by the FIRS. State governments are also adopting ICT as they attempt to expand the tax net and improve collection.
The Plateau ranks number 3 in terms of data. And the state cannot achieve anything meaningful without building the database. And that's what we are doing.
We have engaged the service of one software development company that is called SW Global to automate our payment process. And it's been a year now. And now it is even, we have commenced anybody who wants to make payment will come and generate invoice. Invoice will be generated there. You take it to the bank and make payment. Even our tax clearance certificate can be processed electronically. So we have automated our payment process. What it means, it has blocked a lot of leakages, even in our license office. The old ways of doing things, manually, were now stopped. We have introduced automation and thereby increasing our revenue.
So 2017 for Kaduna, we have a target of 50 billion. Why? Because we did 16 without automation. Now that we have automation, not that it's going to do anything, but just to support us in our drive to see that we get the target. And additionally, after the automation, the next thing we want to do is to also be like Kwara, which we started the process about 7 months ago, to have new people, put it together with the technology and re-engineer the processing that we are, undertaking in the state now for a better tax administration in the state, all towards achieving the 50 billion. And so we are automating the personal income tax. The next thing is for us to have a fully deployed ITAS, that is Integrated Tax Administration System, by the end of this year. But at the moment, we have started with one revenue line so that we'll see the impact, then we'll bring in other revenue lines and taxes as well, so that by the end of this year, we intend to have a full-fledged ITAS, Integrated Tax Administration System.
I think ICT has helped a great deal. Under the new government policy, the TSA, taxes, individuals can go to their various banks and make payment directly, pay their taxes directly to the TSA's account via FIRS. And the moment these things are done, it shows on our system, we have the dashboard, it shows that money has come in. We don't need to go through a whole bulky fight to know those that have paid or not. We can, from the head office, the state controllers, the tax controllers can also know those that have paid. Our collection units, we have a collection department who monitors monies that have come in on a daily basis. So at the end of the month, without gathering papers, the executive chairman from his office knows the inflows on a daily basis from all tax types. So ICT has helped us.
The federal and state revenue boards are collaborating with other government agencies to identify taxpayers and collect taxes. These partnerships are crucial to the success of all parties in tracing and monitoring the groups they target. The FIRS is more concerned about the activities of companies as it collects corporate income tax and VAT on transactions. State governments collect personal income tax and are therefore more concerned about the activities of the individuals that reside in their states. Working together, the state and federal revenue boards are able to achieve their individual goals.
The issue of technology, which has to do with math, is that you are able to, with the press of the button, be able to access information that is at the central portal, be it that is gathered by the Federal Inland Revenue Service or any state, because people are free to move within Nigeria, be them corporate bodies or individuals. And it's only when you have a central system where you can be able to monitor and share this information that it becomes benefit. So for us, it's unique that what we are doing today is something that will give multiplier effect to the various efforts of all the tax agencies in Nigeria, Federal Inland Revenue Service inclusive.
Well, in terms of collaboration, especially with the Federal Revenue Service, it has been fantastic, especially with this new chairman. There is a lot of information sharing, which we have seen the positive impact in Kaduna. I will give you an example. The quota system for the expatriates, which before now, you don't really have a clear picture of how many foreigners are working in a company. But we shared some information from the Federal Revenue Service and we are able to expose a lot of them that are doing business in Kaduna. But because we didn't have this information, we are not able to get us under the radar for TaxNet in Kaduna. So by information sharing with Federal Revenue Service, for instance, we are able to get about 16 companies that have expatriates working under the quota system that we are not before then, before now, not in our TaxNet. Some of them have the experience of one company that has about 15 expatriates working in Kaduna. But by the time my people got to them, they said they're in Ogun, working in Ogun State, you know. And we shared information with the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, and we found out that we are cheating, you know. So this collaboration, it's a good thing, and for Kaduna, we'll take advantage of it, and we'll also do our own part to see that we share information with other internal revenue services across the state for a better, you know, tax generation and collection.
We're doing it for efficient, effective service delivery, meaning that a revenue board in Lagos can assess the system and know the taxes paid by someone who pays to Zamfara tax internal revenue, and vice versa. The FRS should be able to key into that same system and know the tax paid by individuals. And even for other tax agencies, they should be able to key into the system and know whether a corporate entity is even in the database of FIRS, or confirm whether that tax finance is genuine or not. Now, 85% of VAT is shared among the states. The federal government only takes 15%. So it pays the states to work with the FIRS to ensure that the VAT figures go up. Last year, we did 92% of Federation account budget, but only did 58% of VAT. And those are the taxes that impact on the states much more. And so basically, as we work together, and we also have signed an MOU with the states to provide better service in the area of tax audit. When we go to audit a company, we'll also check their pay tax, but that has to be with the agreement of the state revenue agency. So instead of them going next month or in 2 months' time to check the same records, we could do it jointly and do an audit even for not only that state, for all the other states at the same time.
In the US, their IRS system, one of the key things that they have is very good adoption and collaboration. The IRS is linked with so many entities of government and social well-being that it makes it easier to get records of the taxpayers, utilize the taxpayers' information to be more analytical in the way they're collecting revenue, and it helps them with their drive and ultimately the social well-being of the nation. At FIRS, we've started a lot of integration and collaboration with a lot of sister agencies. CAC, we've integrated with them where we can do TIN verification for our taxpayers. It automates automatic TIN generation. We've got integration points with NIBS. We have a group collaboration effort going on now with Federal Road Safety, Immigration, Customs. And what we're trying to tie in there is that these are points of engagement with the public, whether it's for motor vehicle registration. If a TIN is integrated in that, then it ties into our records of integration on understanding the taxpayer. With Customs, when people are importing goods, exporting goods, we understand and we see those transactions. It helps us with that. And these agencies have come to the forefront to support us and with this effort, because we've now seen that this drive is not an FRS initiative, it's a national initiative, because these are the efforts where we generate revenue. It helps us fund our budget, it helps us engage on social and economical well-being of the nation and our citizens. So I think with this initiative and with this drive being put in place, those are ways and efforts in which we are getting to the point of our foreign counterparts.
The idea here is that every drop of water adds to that big river or ocean. And like I said when I was in Ghana, 5,000 naira can save a child from death. I don't like to say that, from malaria. So even in the formal sector, everyone who pays that little token amount towards government empowers government to provide all those services that the needy and that you and I require.
Delegates to the latest Joint Tax Board meeting are energized to work together to continue the drive to increase tax revenues across the country. It's a little early to say how successful some big initiatives discussed will be. But one thing is clear, tax collection is certainly a big part of the drive to move the Nigerian economy beyond oil.
I thank God that the revenues from oil really dipped, because it's really an eye-opener for everybody. Now, if the tempo will continue the way we started in all the IRS across the country, the future is going to be bright, not only for us that are living, even for our children yet unborn. I'm happy to see, like in this program that we're having, you see students from secondary schools and all that. So if all states will do that, then we are leaving a legacy behind for them to understand that the area of, I used to call it armchair taxation, people sitting down waiting for the taxpayer without advocacy, without enlightenment, without really telling them exactly what they need to do to achieve this civic responsibility is gone. Because even if the oil price is up now, it cannot be sustained, it's for sure. Every country in the world is discovering oil.
As Nigeria's federal and state governments collaborate with other government agencies and private sector players to improve tax collection, technology is making it tougher for tax evaders to get away. While the revenue boards continue to push for compliance, the recent initiatives driven by technology could mean that if taxpayers refuse to come clean, they could still be traced with the electronic footprint they leave behind. That's our show for this month. Until we return with a fresh look at the drive to shift Nigeria's focus away from oil, I am Wole Famurewa saying thank you for watching.